everyone. Good Wednesday evening to you. Welcome to Bowling with the Fef, a platform for you to share your unique bowling story live on our YouTube channel. And it has been quite an eventful week around here. It's actually been a week, 2 weeks if you want to get technical, since we've actually done a traditional show. And I'll get into that a little bit as we go, but glad to have all of you here tonight. If you're new to the show, you will see a unique bowling story from a fantastic guest that I can't wait to introduce you to. Also, if you look in the lower right-hand corner of your screen, you'll see my logo. If you hover over that, it will give you a link to subscribe to the channel. And if you subscribe to the channel, which is perfectly free, you will be the first to know about new videos and new live streams that we do. We typically do live streams once a week and have guests of all bowling skill levels. So if you are a bowler, if you're passionate about the sport and have a unique story to tell, and you'd like to tell it on our channel, feel free to reach out. You can find me on Facebook. My name is Andrew Pfeffer, or you can email me at bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com, and I would be glad to talk to you about your bowling story and possibly have you as a guest here on the show. A couple of things I want to mention before we bring our guest on. First of all, Sweep the Rack interview series episode 4. I am proud to let you know that I was a guest on a different bowling show, one called Sweep the Rack. If you've been watching our show for a while, you know that the two co-hosts of that show, Brooklyn Rob Pirashad and Big Mike Weinert, have been guests here. So they returned the favor and invited me to come on for a pre-recorded interview. Lots of fun. We got into my bowling story, my opinions on some things dealing with the Professional Bowlers Association, along with okay, what kind of things do I agree with them on, and what kind of things do I disagree with them on? It's a great listen. Of course, I'm biased when I say that, but I am very happy that they gave me that opportunity. It's a lot of fun, and like I said in the interview, I don't really view us as competitors. I think every bowling live stream out there is just a little bit different, and by kind of consuming all that different content, we all get a richer experience when it comes to finding out about bowling and the characters in our game. So I would encourage you, if you haven't so far, check out Sweep the Rack interview series episode 4. You can find that on their YouTube channel. It's called Sweep the Rack. They've also done previous interviews with some names that you might recognize: Marshall Holman, Chris Vi, and Kyle Troop. So give it a shot. See what you think, and I'd be happy to to take your comments, good or otherwise, if you have an opinion on that show. If you were with us on Sunday, you know that we did kind of a first on Bowling with the Fef. We did a full-blown live stream of the stepladder finals of the 2022 Chippewa Valley match games, which is a big money amateur tournament in our area. It's actually pretty much the biggest of the year when it comes to Eau Claire and the surrounding areas. It's at Wagner's Lanes, and it was a very exciting tournament out there. The winner, Dave Langer of Minnesota, defeated John Cryer Jr. in the championship match, 279 to 247. A very exciting match, and some exciting stuff to come before that too. Here's some of what the champ had to say afterwards.
Bowling well on 5 and 6. My game plan going into it was just anything above 200 was going to be good. The rack on lane 5, the right-handers have had trouble with all weekend. It's a little tight, so carry's a little questionable there, and left a 5-7 in there, but got to 2-0. That was the game plan there, but John bowled great all weekend. I knew 2-0, 220 wasn't going to cut it. I was fortunate he left an 8 and a 9 pin, and at that point I knew 247 was his number, and he was probably going to get there as good as he's throwing it. So got some light hits on 8 and buried him on 7.
That's going to do it. Congratulations to Dave Langer, and this is not his first rodeo at the Chippewa Valley match games. He's actually won it 3 times before. He won it in 2013, again in 2014, and in 2017, along with this latest title. He's one of only 3 players to win 4 championships in the event. Only Chad Nelson and Mike Wurz have more wins at the match games with 5, and six respectively. So a big thank you to tournament director Denny Burkhart, his son Pat Burkhart, who is a manager at Wagner's, for really, kind of being interested in having that event live streamed and helping me out along the way. It was a lot of fun, and it is here on the YouTube channel. If you're interested in taking a first look or reliving it, if you were there or saw the live stream on Sunday, feel free. And again, let me know what you think. It was my first go at live streaming an actual bowling event, and I'm hoping to be able to do more of that and get better at it all along, because, hey, practice makes perfect, right? So anyway, for those of you who watched, I really hope you enjoyed that, and hopefully there are more to come. As you may know already, Bowling with the Fef is brought to you by Chip Magnet Salsa. Chip Magnet Salsa is a local company. It's located right down the street from me in Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Husband and wife team. It's a family business distributing its quality salsas, relishes, and more to stores in 38 states and Canada, including, of course, Wisconsin. And in the Milwaukee area, you can find it in places like Sendik's and Woodman's. If it's not in your neighborhood store, ask for it by name. You'll be glad you did. Or order today by going to their website, chipmagnetsalsa.com. Chip Magnet Salsa, raise your snack standards. So today, we have a terrific guest to tell you about. And one of the things that he and I have in common is our history at a center called Brown Deer Lanes in suburban Milwaukee, Brown Deer, Wisconsin. I really kind of hold dear to three different centers because I've been kind of a vagabond in my bowling career. And two of the others are no longer standing, unfortunately. But Brown Deer Lanes is still there, still running, still standing with a great history there. And our guest tonight is a big part of that history. So let's bring him on. From BDL to the PBA, he is Joe Natoli of Milwaukee. I want to keep the picture up a little bit just because I like looking at it so much. But how you doing tonight, Joe?
Good. Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you. And, relive your bowling story. Talk about coming up through the ranks in the Milwaukee area, especially at Brown Deer Lanes, and more. But I want to start out kind of on a sad note. There's a bowler in the Milwaukee area named Dave Fina who recently passed away. I didn't know him, but it sounds like he was pretty well known among that bowling community there. I want to know if there's any memories that you have and would be willing to share about Dave.
Yeah, Dave gone way too young, 50 years old. But some guys are just cool and witty and sharp and just fun to be around. That's Dave Fina. If you couldn't have a good time around him and his wife Donna, for that matter, you couldn't have a good time. And he's now joined Dan Doherty up in heaven. I'm sure they're bowling pot games or having shots, or maybe hooked up with the Rat Pack and having a good time in the big casino up there.
Yeah. Really sorry to hear about that, and sorry for your loss and the loss of his family and friends. I believe his obituary said that his funeral is this weekend, and we just want to wish the best to all the people who knew him, because 50 years old, that is quite a blow. Let's get on to some, happier news. And we're on the cusp of a PBA season where the PBA Tour is basically going to stop in Milwaukee twice. Once for the Midwest region of the Players' Championship this weekend at AMF West, and the World Series of Bowling at Bolero Wauwatosa. Tell me, how big do you think it is to have not one, but two events in the Milwaukee area this season?
Well, it's fantastic for us here in this area and for bowling. I can remember back in the day when we were at the tour came to Celebrity, and it was always a favorite stop of everybody on the tour. Crowds were big center, big bar. Just everybody had a really good time, and it was always a great tournament.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's huge for us. I think it is anyway, and it's going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm hoping to get down there for the World Series. I don't know if that'll work or not, but we'll see. Time will tell, right?
I'm going to try to get the both of them.
There you go. All right. Well, let's get kind of down and dirty into your bowling story, and we got to, start out by finding out how it all began for you. So, tell us about how, when, and where you started your bowling career.
Sure. And before I do that, I don't need to suck up to you, but I started watching a few, maybe a month ago or so.
Yeah.
And your first commercial was Chip Magnet.
Oh, yeah. There it is.
These are terrific. Go get one of these. They're fantastic. So I'm glad they're a sponsor, and I'm glad I found out about them.
I would agree. Chipmagnetsalsa.com. They're the best. They've, you never know what's going to happen when you start something new, and they've really been behind me the whole time. It helps that, he's been a teammate of mine off and on for 20 years, but they do make a great product, and I'm really glad that you're enjoying it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So my story starts at Brown Deer Lanes. I grew up in Brown Deer, was born there, and we lived about 3 blocks away. And my Uncle Sam, not the government, but I had an Uncle Sam, and he started me golfing and bowling at pretty much the same time. And when I started going to Brown Deer Lanes, the owner at the time, Jerry Stars. As a matter of fact, he's 93 or 4 years old. He's still there. He was like a second father. His wife, Shirley, was a second mother to me. And so I spent a lot of time there. I mean, I bowled every day, all day, 8 hours a day, at all hours of the day, and got into youth leagues there and had great coaches there. And got into the adult leagues. And then when I was before the adult leagues, I was 15 years old, and Jerry gave me a key to the building. Now, he lived upstairs, so it was kind of safe. But he gave me a key. He said, "You can bowl anytime you want." I never paid for bowling. And one day, it's during the day, he comes in, I'm bowling, and I'm throwing my first ball. And if I don't strike, I hit the reset button. Well, he sees that, and he comes marching down, and he's like, "If I ever see you hit that reset button again, you'll pay for every game you bowl." So I bowled spares a lot, and it helped my entire career. And so I have him to thank for that, as well as many other things, but especially that. After youth leagues, got into adult leagues. He got me into adult leagues. Blue Mound Bowl had the Blue Mound Metro, where all the top players bowled from all over the state, really. And then after high school, I went out onto the tour. I wish I would have went to college at that time. I ended up getting my degree later, but I think had I spent 4 years on a college team, it would have helped me out on the tour.
Sure.
I made enough to be out there for like 6 or 7 years. And then I had enough and came home. It was stick a fork in me, I'm done. But I met a lot of great people there, still friends with them today. And after the tour, came back, worked at the Bowling Congress for 10 years in the high score processing department for a while, so we had to review every single high score game, the lane dressing report. At that time, the associations filled out a report, and then it came to headquarters, and we reviewed them and passed them or not. So that wasn't a whole fun job. A lot of times you were rejecting scores. But after that, got into the rules department, worked with Jeff Henry, who's a great bowler as well. He'd have some great stories. And that was it as far as bowling. After that, I moved on to something else. The merger was coming up. Wasn't sure if they would have a spot for me. And there was a children's charity called Variety Club that needed an executive director. Our executive director had retired, and so I took over that position and continued to bowl at the same time.
Okay. So take me back to your time in juniors at Brown Deer Lanes. Tell me about that junior program, not only because it kind of leads into what I have next, but, that holds a special place in my heart because my first sanctioned junior league was at Brown Deer Lanes in the mid-'80s.
Yeah, that's amazing that we have that in common, although mine was a little before yours. But they had a great youth program. There was Of course, Jerry was there, and he was good in his own right. He's in the Milwaukee Hall of Fame now. And then we had, and why I remember these two names, I have no idea, but they made an impression on me, obviously. And one was Pat Tadieski, and she organized the leagues, and we did a lot of bus trips. And after she moved on, then Pat Beyer took over, and she had two sons that were in the leagues as well, junior leagues as well. So we went to a lot of tournaments, and it was just a great time to be bowling in youth leagues.
Yeah.
JBC at that time.
Sure. Yeah. I talked with somebody who remembers your game when you were in juniors, and that's Jerry's daughter, Kim Stars Nicholas.
Oh, yeah.
You know, she was around when you were growing your game as a teenager. She told me that she was only 7 when they bought the lanes, and Joe was that cool teenager that was the awesome bowler in the junior leagues. She said she had a nickname for you, has no idea where it came from, but she called you Nipper, and even named a teddy bear after you. And then she goes on to say, yep, had a 10-year-old crush on him, but how could I not? After all, he was the best bowler, and she was like a bowler groupie.
Well, she's too kind there, but she was like a younger sister, and she was a good bowler as well. And so we had a lot of good times there. There was a lot of good youth bowlers there, and I was fortunate enough to be one of them. And she is a little bit younger than I am, but she's been managing, or not managing. She owns Brown Deer Lanes now for a long time. And I actually worked for her for a couple of times, managed briefly a couple of times. I went to Arizona and came back, and she gave me a job a couple of times there. So I have to thank her for that as well. And she's a sweetheart.
Yeah. By the time I got to juniors, she was the coach. And you're right. She was such an accomplished bowler, and I felt like I couldn't do anything right. And, you know, but it was my first couple of years. And
was she tough on you?
Well, I think she was tough on all of us, but it made sense because, you know, after you learn about, you know, the finer points and shooting spares and things like that, you know, you start to think and realize, boy, you know, there was a method to the madness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell me about the kinds of tournaments you got into, you know, in those days when you were kind of growing your game and not quite in the adult ranks yet. Sure.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we don't have some of those tournaments now. So the guys that are really good now, I feel bad for them because they don't have these tournaments. But like bowling with the champs, the state match, singles, doubles, team, mixed doubles. We had a series called the Non-Pro Series, which ran just about every weekend, Saturday, Sunday. And those were a terrific learning ground for guys that went out on the tour or just to advance your game. And everybody and anybody that was anybody bowled in those tournaments.
Yeah.
2 days, qualifying Saturday, finals on Sunday.
Sure. When did you decide, and you had mentioned you didn't do college, but you know, you were kind of building yourself up. When did you decide that, you know what, I'm not only good enough to, you know, to succeed here in the Milwaukee area, but I think I can compete against the best in the world?
Well, I mean, you have to think that you can go out there and win if you're going to go.
Yeah.
And I did. And that was partly, I guess, why I didn't do the college bowling, even though I probably could have got a nice scholarship at that time. But, you know, I was going to go out there and be the next, you know, Dick Weber, Don Carter, whoever you want to mention. And, you know, it's not that easy. But I thought that right away, because I bowled so much and practiced so much that in my mind, I was going to go out and I was going to be successful.
Yeah.
And I mean, you had to think that way, or why bother? You know,
Sure.
You had to think you were going to win.
Is there a balance between, you know, having that killer instinct, thinking you're going to win against whoever you're against, and kind of being a nice guy on the side? I mean, Kim said, you know, that you never treated her like an annoying little kid. and that was super awesome to her. You have a special place in her heart, and you're like family to them. And if you're a competitor, sometimes that's got to go to the wayside, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I'm Gus Unaris. I'll pick him just for an example. Best of friends. Mm-hmm. If we're on the lanes and we're against each other, that's out the door. We want to beat each other. And you have to want to beat the other person. I don't care who it is, Earl Anthony at the time or whoever. You had to think you could beat him, and you had to want to beat him. And I had some success at it, not enough. Unfortunately, maybe I didn't have the killer instinct. I don't know. Maybe it was that, the good Midwestern values or something like that. I don't know, not to knock any other place, but you have to have it. Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Everybody has the physical game. Mm-hmm. So it comes down to the mental game.
Yeah. When you went out on tour, who were the guys who either you developed friendships with or kind of took you under their wing?
Yeah, good question. I initially Charlie Tapp and I roomed together. I know you had him on a while ago, and he told a great story about a motorhome trip from the West Coast back to Milwaukee. I believe we ended up in Milwaukee, actually. And then he went home and got rid of that damn thing because it was a piece of garbage. But he forgot to mention that I was on the trip with him in that thing. And we drove through blizzards, and I had never driven a motorhome before, and had to have the chain. Well, he told the whole story, but I was on that trip, and it was colder inside the motorhome than it was outside, and it was freezing outside. That thing was terrible.
Yeah.
So Charlie Tapp, and then Joe Hutchinson, Tom Baker, hung out a little bit with Frank Ellenberg. Yeah, that's who are those guys with dark hair? Yeah, that's at my parents' house. We would stay there. The guys would stay over. Charlie's not in that picture because I think he went home with the motorhome for the tournament or after the tournament. But we would stay at my parents' house. My mom would make these huge Italian dinners. Had a bunch of the guys over. Ernie Schlegel, his wife Catherine, Al Stoneham, a bunch of guys would come over for dinner. And these goofballs who I still keep in touch with today. Tom's an amazing story as well. And both of these guys would be great guests. Hutch is just funny all the time. Tom's been on the tour, I think, since about 1985. No, 75.
I was going to say even earlier.
Because I went out in 77. So he's been on the tour that long. What a story that is.
Yeah.
He was. Those guys were fantastic to be with and hang around with, and knowledgeable and supportive. And I watched them in the finals bowl a lot.
Yeah.
But, well, you name them, and I was fortunate enough to meet these guys, and the Earl Anthonys, the Dick Webbers, Pete Weber. When he first came out, I was wearing braces on the tour at the time, and so he called me Silver Tooth, because he had a little bit of a sharp tongue. I called him Silver Tongue. That has lasted all these years as well.
Yeah.
But, Jimmy Certain was another guy, and he ended up living here for a while, married a beautiful woman from here, and stayed here for a while. At Blue Mountain Bowl, had a pro shop for a while.
Okay.
So I just met a lot of great people, stayed in touch with a lot of them throughout the years as well.
Yeah.
Well, and especially Hutch and Tapp and Charlie and Bakes.
Sure. So, let's talk about Charlie, because I did make contact with him. We have to. Yeah. One of the things that he mentioned, besides the fact that he says he feels bad that he left you out of his Hall of Fame speech in Michigan, was that he remembers the first time that you made the top 24. He said on Saturday, they went to Brown Deer Lanes to watch the show. And when your name was announced on the show, he remembers how proud all the people were of you, and he thought that was great. Do you remember that? That accomplishment, making the top 24 for the first time?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a unique experience when that happens. And when we were watching the finals, I had Jerry Stars and my parents were the sponsors for me. And then we sold shares. So there were a lot of people in the bowling center, a lot of the regulars that put money in to sponsor me.
Yeah.
So, and then that lasted for 6 or 7 years. And so that's why when I went back in there, or we went back in there, and my name pops up, that's why everybody was so excited. And, you know, I had grown up there anyway. So
Sure.
it's pretty cool. It's, you know, you make the top 24 and the first time, and you're bowling all these people, your idols that you've looked up to and watched on TV all these years. I'm bowling Earl Anthony. My bowling ball has his name on it. You know, this is crazy.
Yeah. Wow. Tell me about some of the challenges. I mean, you said, 6 years. So, you had some success, but, you said the challenges kind of outweighed that in the end. What was it? I mean, was it just was it the lane conditions? Was it the other bowlers? Is there a way to kind of quantify all that?
Well, yeah, it was like, for me, if if you had to average 6 or 7 strikes a game, I was 5 or 6 strikes a game.
Sure.
And ball speed was one thing. Now remember, this was when Roth and Holman and Handley, guys with big hands and threw the ball hard, were successful. Yep. So I was neither of those. I was straight and soft. So that was a challenge. Equipment, not so much back then as it is now with covers and stuff like that. I mean, you had, yellow dots and and crown jewels, and then they came out with, LT48, and some of the other balls then started to come out with different weight blocks and surfaces. So it was, I think for me, it was more mental than physical, but physical was a factor as well.
Yeah.
Back in the early 80s, late 70s.
Right. You said you went out on 77, so you were out until 83. Were you able to get a hold of and then throw some of the early urethane balls?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And back then still you were looking for bleeders, like yellow dot bleeders and stuff like that, or bonanza bleeders. They had those back then too. Crown jewels were tougher to find, but if you found one, it was like gold. So, I mean, the game has come so far since then with equipment. It's, back then, I don't know, 9 bowling balls maybe. And now you got to go out with, 29. And it's like picking a different golf club. So it has come a long way.
Yeah.
But it was tough. Lane conditions, you'd go out to Showboat in Vegas, and they had wood lanes in part of the house. I think they had 120 lanes, if I remember. They had wood lanes in part of the house. Then they had synthetic heads, but wood back ends. And then they had all synthetic. So when you crossed that house, if you went from the synthetic to the full wood, it was like night and day. It's, a different bowling center.
Yeah. What do you think your biggest accomplishment was in your time on tour?
Oh, biggest accomplishment was probably making good friends. But I learned a lot. I had some, I got to meet and talk to the best that there has ever been. The Anthonys, the Webbers, the Roths, Marshall Holman, who I know you had on as well. And he was a great guest. Yeah. But I would say the friendships, and like I said, I learned on the tour, which was a detriment as also, because then when I came back, I was better here, but I didn't have it. I didn't have that knowledge. I got it on the tour, and it should have been just the other way around.
Sure.
That's where that 4 years of college might have helped out.
Yeah. So
I think my best finish was 6th.
Okay.
And a bunch of top 24s.
Yeah. So you come back to the Milwaukee area, and tell me about the kinds of events that you bowled, after you were done on tour.
Yeah, bowling with the champs for one. I had a stretch of 10 years where I made the show 9 years out of the 10, winning it in 88, 89 season. All the state match tournaments, the non-pro tournaments. I got into some of the USBC, not FIQ, but because they were trying to get into the Olympics. I mean, they've been trying to get into the Olympics forever and still haven't gotten there. But in the off years, they had something called the Olympic Festival. So in 91, 92, I won the regional and got the chance to go out to California and bowl in the Olympic Festival. And they ran it just like the Olympics. So if you won a medal.
Is that what this is?
Yeah, that's it right there. Yeah. That was, I met Vince Biondo at that and his family. Friends with him still today. What a great guy he is, and what a terrific bowler. Yeah. And now it looks like his son is pretty good as well. But they had an opening ceremony in Dodger Stadium and a closing ceremony. At the time, Ronald Reagan was the president. Him and Nancy drove onto the field and walked along. And they just, they had the Eternal Flame, and Rayford Johnson was there, and Bruce Jenner was there. Looked a little different than he does now, but he was there, and it was just a phenomenal experience. Some of the people that were there, like I said, Vince Biondo and Ron Moore, and Fred Borden was the coach.
Yep.
I actually bowled a 290 game there.
Oh.
Had the first 11, play in the gutter, put it in the gutter on the 12th.
Oh.
And Robert Smith was there. I think Barnes was there as well. And just a lot of top players that ended up going on the tour and being great as well.
Sure. Yeah. You had mentioned bowling with the champs. I want to bring up something that Mark Wukeman told me. He said that you both had the same mentor. His name was Vince Cinder, and that you were blessed to have him as a coach, and that he was your corner man on Bowling with the Champs, and that he made you to who you are in bowling. Tell me about Vince. What did he do for you as a coach, and then in the heat of battle on that show that many of us remember so well?
Yeah. Vince taught the delayed pendulum swing. So you got to the foul line a fraction before you were going to release the ball. It wasn't simultaneous. And he was a student of the game. And he actually learned from Tom Corris, who probably wrote the best bowling book ever called Par Bowling. And Vince picked that up, and he was able to relay it to us and teach it to us. And he really didn't have a bowling background. I'm sure Mark got into it a little bit when he was on, but he was an alcoholic, and he took up bowling to beat that. And he was just the nicest man. And he could watch you bowl. He could watch Mark bowl, or my bowl, or Jeff Henry bowl, or any of the other guys, and he could tell you what you were doing wrong in 2 shots and straighten you out. And that's how good he was. And when later on the tour, and I got to know Tom Corris a little bit, I mentioned Vince's name because Vince had mentioned his name, and he said, "You listen to that guy. He knows what he's talking about." So coming from Tom Corris, that was pretty impressive.
Yeah, I'll say. Tell me about winning that championship in 88, 89. I mean, I think I may have told you, I moved to Minnesota in September of 87.
Yeah.
So I didn't get to live that, live. But, I've watched the YouTube video of it, and,
Sure.
to see you up there, as really the grand champion, and seeing guys like Brian Brazeau and Dale Traber, winning other stuff. But, you were the guy. What was that like to break through?
Well, it's outstanding. And I had been on the year before, bowled a guy by the name of Ron Vokes, who you may know.
Oh, yeah.
And thought it would be a good idea to get a massage the night before to relax. Worst thing ever. No, don't do that. If you're thinking about doing it, do not get a massage the night before you bowl a big tournament. I was just a wet noodle. I didn't have a strike till the fifth frame of the third game.
Oh, okay.
Shot like 450 and lost horribly. Came back and won the next year. And it's different bowling on TV. It's, normally there's a lot of noise. You can hear your footsteps, which, if you're not used to it, is rather nerve-wracking. So it's tough. The lights are there, but after the first couple shots, you get used to it. And I was fortunate enough to beat a lot of great players on that show, Brian being one of them, Ken Sharkowitz, who we later became partners. Matter of fact, I think he's having a surgery today or in the very near future, so I want to wish him well with that.
Yeah.
While I'm thinking about it, and bowled Rich Wonders on the show and beat him, and there's nobody better than Rich Wonders at that time. So it was a great experience, and actually a lot of the experience from the tour I was able to use then in amateur bowling for the Olympic Festival, for Bowling with the Champs, for the non-pros, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So, like we talked about earlier, Kim had the crush on you at age 10. Wookeman says his wife had a crush on you a long time ago.
Margie, well, we bowled, we were mixed doubles partners.
Yep.
We won the state match mixed doubles back-to-back years.
Yeah. He says he did you a favor by marrying her.
Well, Mark and I were teammates as well.
Yeah.
But Margie was terrific. She was an excellent player, and she was a tough competitor. I mean, there was no second place in her vocabulary. She wanted to win, and she won a lot. And beautiful woman as well. So it was, she great player, as is Mark.
Yeah, for sure. How about a guy named Hank Poznansky, who came on the show before? He calls you a very nice guy, class act on the bowling lanes, very competitive, lots of talent, and a guy who is always in your corner and encouraging you, supporting you, asking what he can do for you. He says, we meet a lot of people through bowling, but very few turn out to be true friends, and Joe is that guy. Tell me about that and, how it relates to maybe your friendship with Hank.
Yeah, Hank's a great guy as well. I mean, you never have to guess what his opinion is. He'll tell you, and I like that. Gus, same way. But Hank and the entire family, his parents, his dad, his brothers, great family, very close knit. He makes time now to go have lunch with his dad. I don't know, maybe every day or at least a couple times a week that I am aware of. And they just did a lot for bowling and still do throughout the years. And Hank was a terrific bowler, has national titles, and doesn't seem like he's that competitive because he's kind of laid back on the lanes, but he's a competitor. Again, another guy that thinks, he's going to step on the lanes and win.
Sure.
I mean, Hank, another guy was a super nice person that was a doubles partner, actually two guys that are both gone, Dennis Yechter and Mike Straney.
Yeah.
Were tremendous. Bowled doubles with both of them. Mike, when we bowled nationals, bowled a 300 game at the ABC tournament in 1983. And at that time, it was the 36th 300 in the history of the tournament.
Wow.
There was none the year before and just one that year. And then I think it was 86 or 87. There was like 60 in 1 year. I think that they went to short oil at that time. But anyway, to get back to Hank, just great guy, does a lot for bowling.
Sure. Yeah. Kim wanted to, when I got a hold of her, she wanted to first make sure and see what her dad had to say. So
This ought to be good.
she said that he remembers how much the charity that you had mentioned you worked for didn't want to lose you because you were doing such a great job. And that, all the years that, you did so many different things, he said you managed to stay a really good guy. And she says that's, kind of a rare thing, in this day and age. Knowing that he's, still around Brown Deer Lanes and helping, to kind of hand off that legacy to Kim and all that. I mean, what are your thoughts?
Yeah.
There?
Yeah. And well, Kim's son is a good bowler as well, who's managing the other center, Sussex Bowl. But those are very nice things to hear. And yeah, I hear some of these people say that I'm a nice guy, and I appreciate that. But maybe that's why I wasn't good on the tour. Maybe I didn't have that attitude or that instinct that I needed to be better or to win. But those are very nice things. Jerry, I believe, is 93, 94 years old, still very active, still very sharp. Like I mentioned earlier, him and Shirley, who's gone, God rest her soul, were like another set of parents for me growing up. And Brown Deer Lane, I think Jerry bought Brown Deer Lanes in the early 70s, 72, I want to say. How many guys give a 15-year-old kid a key to the building and say, bowl whenever you want? So it's near and dear to my heart, and it's nice to have them say those nice things.
Yeah. How about, kind of moving forward in 93, you had a World Team Challenge team named Saz's that made a TV show. What do you remember worked so well for that team?
Oh, that was a great team. And we sometimes had to make some switches in the team just from schedules or whatnot. But Brian Brazeau, Jace Peterson, who I bowled doubles with for a long, long time. And both those guys are terrific players, would be great guests as well. Jace won bowling with the champs. Let's see, who else? I think Joe Oliva was on that team. Niall Konachek was on the team. And Kenny Sharkowitz was on that team as well. And when those first started, brainchild of Ed Bauer, who worked at the Bowling Congress, him and Daryl Dobbs worked really well together, and they came up with not only that concept, but the sport leagues. And we had a radio bowling talk show that I co-hosted for a while. And we also had a bowling show like the PGA Tour has. And that was a great show. I wasn't involved in that show, but Ed Bauer would be a great guest. He knows all the behind the scenes things for that, worked at ABC for a long time. I'm going to ask him to reach out to you. Sure. But the team concept was amazing because it was the Baker system. The qualifying was regular bowling, but then the finals were Baker system. If you don't know what that is, the first bowler bowls the first frame, the second bowler bowls the second frame, and so on down the line. Fifth bowler bowls the fifth and the 10th. And then those were televised as well. And I think a lot of guys, not only our team, but other teams from Milwaukee had an advantage because we were on TV all the time here with Bowling with the Champs. Okay. So it helped us when we went out on the national tournaments as well. I think we won about 5 or 6 of those throughout the years. Never won the championship, but we got there.
Yeah. How long did you keep bowling before you decided that's pretty much it, or you're not going to do it as much?
Probably it's been a while now. I don't know how to explain it, quite honestly. I've always been a fiery competitor, and I always wanted to be on the lanes. And all of a sudden, I just didn't feel it anymore. It's like someone flipped a switch and turned out the pilot light or the fire. And I just wasn't feeling it anymore. I wasn't having fun. I didn't feel a competitive spirit. League bowling, I didn't care for it at all in the later years now, because the guys were great. I loved hanging out with the guys and drinking with the guys. Don Hildebrand, who a lot of people know runs the state association, is a terrific guy. He would be a great guest as well. I know I'm throwing out a lot of names there, but he would be a great guest as well. And so I just lost the fire, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
I just felt like I could be doing something else.
Sure. So despite that, I mean,
and I was still physically able to do it, and mentally. I mean, I don't have any physical issues. And it kind of makes me feel bad, because a guy like John Megna, who would kill right now to get back on the lanes, because he's had some health problems, he can't. And I feel bad, because here I don't have any issues at all, and I would like to be, I would like to have that fire back.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Right. There they are. Gus and Hank and Megna.
And John, yeah.
Yeah.
John. Yeah, I went to John for I don't know, 40 years maybe. Drilled for me. I had a couple other guys. I had Joe Serrar a couple times, and a guy by the name of Chuck Eberhardt, and John Boho, who was a great bowler and a ball fitter. John actually was the first guy to drop my ring finger, because my ring finger is so much lower the joint than my middle finger.
Oh.
Well, my normally that ring finger is always longer, and for me it's shorter.
Oh, okay.
But I still go to John, and Chad's there now, and Chad and Gus, and Chad's a great guy as well. Chad Kloss, man, what a bowler he is.
No kidding. Yeah, absolutely. Despite that, the accolades started coming in. I mean, you were inducted into the Milwaukee Hall of Fame in 1999, and you were president of the Milwaukee Hall of Fame for a while. How did that come to be?
Well, it's Hank was the president. John was the president after me. Gus was the president. Bob Greenfield. That Hall of Fame has been around since the 1960s, I want to say, 62, 63. You have to be the vice president for a couple of years, and then you become the president. And it's run by the members of the Hall of Fame. So all of the members that come to the meeting, they can vote. They can provide their input. They vote on whoever the officers are, whether it's for skilled division or meritorious. And so it runs itself, or at least it did for a long time. Now we just kind of merged with the association. We were with the association, we broke apart, and now we're back together. And I did my years doing that. I really enjoyed it, even though I kind of got stuck in the whole merger thing, which was a pain in the neck and a big hassle, but we got through it. And it's a great group of guys, the Milwaukee Hall of Fame, and there's some huge names in that Hall of Fame. I've started, I don't want to say I'm a historian, but I started doing some, looking up some history, and we have just some phenomenal people in that Hall of Fame. Somebody started saving all the 10-pin journals.
Oh, yeah.
From back in the 50s up until now, and I started going through those. Wow. And Hank Marino was voted the bowler of the half century from Milwaukee, and all these other guys just were tremendous. We have a tremendous Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So then in 2016, you're inducted into the state USBC Hall of Fame. Yeah. And Jeff Riggles wrote about your Hall of Fame class and mentioned a rule change that allowed you to get in. What was that all about?
Well, for a long time, it was kind of, before Jeff got involved, it was kind of a state bowling Hall of Fame and not a state Hall of Fame. And by that, I mean, if you had a great record, but you didn't really do great in the state tournament, you didn't get in. And when Jeff got in, he kind of changed that. And another guy, Mike Van Domelen, from up, I guess your area kind of. And so they started looking at everybody's full body of work. Nationals, tournaments, bowling with the champs, international bowling. And that I've been very fortunate. The group of guys that I went in with in the city, it was Dale Traber, Gary Darashevsky, myself, and then Ralph Krieger, Meritorious. You know, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah.
And then this group, I mean, you got Greeny, Ryan Lever, myself, and Gail Myers Jr. Again, great class of people.
Sure.
And bowlers.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was honored to be recognized. It was a great night. My folks were alive when I got into city. They were not when I got into the state. So that was too bad, but they were looking down on me.
Yeah, for sure. Greeny told me that, you know, you've not only been a great bowler, but a class act, a true diplomat for bowling, and that he had the privilege of bowling, you know, with you on some teams throughout the years.
Yeah.
And you're the consummate competitor and sportsman. So yeah, to go in that same class with him must have been pretty sweet.
It was sweet. We actually rented a suite and invited everybody up to the suite afterwards and had beverages and snacks and whatnot. And we just had a terrific night. And not that I drink a lot, but I really didn't drink much that night because I wanted to remember everything.
Yeah.
It just was fantastic. My family was there. My kids were there. So that was special. That was really special.
Yeah. How about the Lucky Lanes one ball tournament?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. How'd you get involved? And I mean, is that kind of your baby now?
It is for now. I don't know how much longer, but it's 3 years old. Mm-hmm. And I just wanted to do something different. You know, league, you see guys posting 300s from league all the time. I just think league bowling is too easy. Yeah. That's my, you know, get off the grass opinion. my especially, and Jerry doesn't like to hear this, and Kim doesn't like to hear this, but Brown Deer is a little bit tougher than some places. Oh. And so growing up there, that helped me be better as well, and especially going to tournaments. But and not to take away from anybody that bowls there, but they don't have the class of bowler that, say, Greenfield Bowl has, or Classic Lanes has in Greenfield. But it's a little bit tougher place. I know they don't like to hear that, yeah. But it's I lost my train of thought.
I guess, you know, I'm assuming you're going to kind of wind this back over to the one ball event somehow.
Oh, the one ball. That's right. So yeah. I wanted to do something different, make it a little bit tougher. And so came up with the idea and talked to a lot of guys and said, what do you think about this? So you can bowl with any ball you want in qualifying. Then you pick one ball to bowl the rest of the tournament. No spare ball, no nothing. If you switch balls, you're disqualified. And we've done it 3 years. And winner of the first year was Steve Brinkman. Okay. Again, phenomenal player. Mm-hmm. Second year, and that was at Lucky Lane. Second year with COVID, there was some issues, so we moved it to Blue Mound Bowl. Yeah. And Chad Rockteschel, Corey Rockteschel's son, won that event, but in qualifying, the lights went out. The power went out in the building for over 2 hours, and we had to call it a day. I didn't want to stay there till 10 o'clock at night. And so he was the leader, so we declared him the winner, and we adjusted the prize money and just paid everybody off down the line. And then this year we went back to Lucky Lanes, and Scott Helm won the tournament. Another great player. Just got into the State Hall of Fame in the last few years. Mm-hmm. And so it was just it's just a way to do something different. We don't have a lot of the tournaments that we used to have, and it's had a real good response.
Yeah. So how about, where you go from here, the future in the sport? I mean, do you see yourself, being involved in anything else other than that? Do you see yourself getting back in at some point?
Getting back in, who knows? I might wake up and just want to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Very possible. I've served. I was the president of the Milwaukee Hall of Fame. I served on the board of directors for 10 or 11 years. So did that. Bowled a lot of tournaments, went to a lot of bowling centers. But I don't have the desire at the moment. So I don't know what I'm going to do in the future bowling wise. I don't know if I'm going to bowl again. I probably won't serve on a board again, but you never know. There's some new leadership in the Milwaukee Association. So I may want to get back into that if they'll have me. But it's a tough question for me right now because I'm kind of not in bowling mode.
Yeah.
I'm still interested in it. I still watch people do it, and I still, especially the top players, the pros are incredible. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, fair enough. We have one comment from a guy Will Welch wants to say hi.
Will Welch,
yeah.
What a nice person, a young man, great bowler.
Mm-hmm.
Really has a solid game. I mean, he is so smooth, and he doesn't look like a power player, but he is. Great guy.
Yeah. No, happy to have him on the show and get to know him a little bit over the course of the last few months. So I'd agree. Great player and good guy. I'd say we go off the sheet, but I feel like we've been doing that the whole time. Is there any way to kind of either name off all the people you suggested or whittle it down or anything like that?
I think I mentioned a bunch of people, but
there was Hildebrand.
Well, this is a new one.
Yeah.
But and I don't know him terrific. We're not best of friends, and he would be a national guy. He wrote a book. Larry Lickstein would be a great guest. He traveled with the tour for many, many years. Was the ball driller to the pros. Had a motorhome that he retrofitted into a pro shop.
Oh wow!
And he had an interesting life. He would be a great guest.
Yeah, and you're actually the second one to suggest him. So Larry, again, my
he was on Facebook. I'll send him a message.
Yeah, let him know. Both you and Tom Hankey Jr. thought he'd be good to have on. So
Hildebrand too, from the state association would be great.
Yeah, and he'd be another one that that I would find interesting because I bowled on a league with him at Echo before it closed.
Yeah.
So that would be neat. But Don, Larry, if you end up seeing this somehow, let me know. You can email me at bowlingwiththefef@yahoo.com. We can make sure and make that happen. So our next show is going to be a little bit different from the norm. First of all, the timing of it. It's going to be a 5:00 show, which I normally don't do. But this is kind of a special occasion because we're getting an entire team of bowlers to come on. And it's some guys that you know pretty well, at least a couple of them, I would guess. It's Dale Traber, Todd Filter, Eric Medinger, and the Fishheads, who have had that team going for a long time. There was a Fishheads team when I was still bowling at Regatta 2 in Thiensville. And the team lives on at Cedars in Cedarburg. So if you had the opportunity to say anything, about Dale or the rest to kind of get us ready for this next show, what would it be?
Well, what can you say? I mean, Dale, we actually started about the same time. I was in Brown Deer, he was in Cedarburg, and bowled together and against each other a long time. And he's won everything. I just he's an amazing player.
Yeah.
And the other guys, I really don't know that well. Todd Filter, I know, super nice guy, nice bowler. The other guys I know, but I don't, I'm not friends with them. I haven't talked to them a lot, but
Sure.
that's a fun team. That's a nice team right there.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, 5 p.m. Next week on Tuesday, January 18th, we will have Dale and the Fishheads on Bowling with the Pfeff, and we hope that everybody will join us for that. Should be an exciting show. Joe, I really appreciate the time and the willingness to come on and share your bowling story and, all those kind of mutual connections that we have, although, kind of in a different era, it's really cool to talk about that, especially all the Brown Deer Lane stuff.
I appreciate it, really do. And you do a terrific job. Keep it going, and hope to do it again sometime.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. That means a lot. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. Be just and fear not. And we will see you again next week.